If there is someone who owns the rights for a piece of art or something, a book, song or something, then yeah, I think it's not really getting into public domain. I think it still stays. I think it still stays. That was like with some of the books, for example. Like if there's someone who inherited or something the rights, I guess, then it might still be copyrighted by someone. Hey, Pony, hello. Taps on getting scammed there. Getting scammed there. All right, let's get some of the coffee going. Get the water. Get the coffee. And read some articles before it's time to switch to our game show. There's one article that I really wanted to read, that's for sure. About the price of games. That's a very nice topic. And why it's increasing and everything. That's a very nice topic. Pretty sure we all have a lot to say about that. I would say. Ooh, right. There we go. Well, there we go. I see, bro, I see. Ah, so they got you the regular one. Alright, that's good, though. That's good. I thought they were trying to push the credit one on you. The regular card is fine. That is good. I'm not sure if they changed it, but you used to need to at least have something on it. Some amount or some turnover on it to have it for free. Otherwise, you pay for service still. That used to be the case. Not sure if it's still the case, but it used to be. It used to be. Time to get that job, eh? Time to get it. Time to get it. Yeah, you better check it because that used to be the case before. You need to either have like some deposit or you need to use their investing thing. That's what I did. Or you need to have some sort of like turnover, like, you know, buying stuff, paying for stuff per month. Then they don't charge you. Otherwise they will. Otherwise they will. Ooh, right. There we go. Okay. Get the Vietnamese then. I need to order some milk for my aeropresso. But now we go with this until I get it. Until I get it. It's gonna be snowing hard. I might actually, like, instead of the YouTube today, just go for a walk in the evening or something if it's gonna be snowing hard. Time to get some refreshing snow in my face. Oh, that would be nice. And grab some kebab or something, probably. That also would be nice. That also would be nice. And then tomorrow we continue down life. And Tuesday, Wednesday I'll be off. And then it's already gonna be time for the booperathon. Beer bottling, we'll see. Beer bottling probably on Tuesday then, I guess. Well, Tuesday gonna be off, but we'll see. Maybe I'll just go Live on Tuesday, bottle the beer. We'll see. We will see. Damn pony, plus 15 even. Damn son. That's quite a warm, eh? Oh, that is very warm, I would say. Lucky, only 1 week. Yeah, it's pretty alright here. Wouldn't call it super cold, but it's snowy. That was good. That was a lot of snow. It like didn't stop snowing since yesterday. Like evening still. Gonna be a lot of snow everywhere. Already is really. It already is really. Perfect for a walk. If it still will be snowing, of course. Geek. This is called a fin. This is the Vietnamese way to do it. With some good old cum in the cup. And the condensed cum. It's nice. It's nice. Alright, I'm gonna clean the grinder while we wait. Basically kind of like any drip coffee device almost would do probably. Not sure if it actually adds anything super special to other drip coffee ways and devices. Kinda doubt it. Kinda doubt it. Kinda doubt it. Alright, done. Oh, already going. Nice. Nice. Pretty good if you manage to get Vietnamese beans also. Vietnamese coffee with this thingy. It actually works really good together. A very interesting taste on that one usually. But very nice, very nice. Alright, done. Let's read this article today. See what it is all about. Well, I know what it's all about. We'll see what kind of shit they're gonna say about it. Let's go. There we go, and the best one. Why is a games development so expensive? Let's go. A new report from Omdia highlights the reasons why development costs are skyrocketing. Let's see. Let's see. It costs $174 million to make Cyberpunk 2077, and normally development budgets are tightly guarded secrets, but in this case we know because CD Projekt Red published the total cost of the project in an official post-mortem following the game's disastrous launch in 2020. Cyberpunk's development was troubled by everything from unrealistic hype to overwork and development stuff, but one thing that didn't attract much attention was the huge cost of the project. Development budgets are of upwards of $150 million have become unremarkable to modern AAA games, and this actually greatly understates the total cost. which can easily reach twice that number once marketing is taken into account, so that's before marketing even. Recently as a decade ago, only a handful of extravagantly expensive titles had ever cost more than $50 million to make. But the last two console generations have seen an acceleration of development costs, which is now reaching a point that calls into question the sustainability of AAA games development. Mobile games, meanwhile, face a parallel challenge. While developing for less powerful mobile devices is cheaper, the cost of user acquisition is rising prodigiously and can often be as much as 10 times the core development budget, threatening a similarly unsustainable cost spiral. Damn son, the gaming market about to die. The core driver of cost increases is fundamental, diminishing returns on improvements in graphics hardware. Every subjective step up in graphics quality requires a greater increase in raw rendering power than the last. But while manufacturers have done an impressive job of maintaining an exponential rate of improvement in raw hardware performance, human effort does not scale so easily. Vastly bigger and more detailed games are now possible, but require far more work to create. This process is now approaching a tipping point where costs have begun to accelerate alarmingly. They will really have a lot of games that push the boundary, that show us, you know, that tech that all this hardware provides. That is kind of something like Crysis back in the day, for example. Well, that was just like, bruh, that's insane. I don't think we get a lot of those nowadays. I don't think so. In theory, it should be possible to simply stop chasing ever shinier graphics and bigger worlds. But graphics, they don't even chase, to be honest. Like, I think like they need some statistics on that one. I feel like majority of like releases lately is like something like, you know, cell shading, well, pixel art, obviously, you know, some sort of like kind of low poly stuff and everything. Well, not talking even indie, even like AAA stuff. Like there is not that much of crazy graphical fidelity in like the AAA releases too. Red Dead 2. Red Dead was, that's true. Well, I mean, some more, even like Callista, for example, right? It looks really good. And there is also like all this like Cyberpunk again, also look pretty good. Like I'm just not sure if it's like that crazy much of a like constant advancement going on, because I think a lot of those you know, super crazy realistic things that we saw in like Crysis again or something, they are still like on the top notch. I mean, some tech added, obviously, right? Like the resolutions are higher, which obviously also is computational power. Frame rates are higher. The monitors with our refresh rate and everything. RTX stuff, of course, too. But if anything, I think that's actually the bigger games. Not like the better graphics, but just more shit where you need to do it. The dynamics of the console market make it extremely difficult to break out a graphical arms race. Publishers must pay the platform holders 30% of their sales, but Sony and Microsoft themselves are not just exempt from this tax, but subsidized by it, giving them a greater financial wiggle room. Moreover, developing impressive graphical showcases helps to sell their consoles. Well, PlayStation does. PlayStation, I'll give them that. PlayStation does. But that, like, look at Switch, dude. Did the development cost grow there? Did it? I want to know. I want to know if that shit grow anywhere, because that shit looks worse than mobile games nowadays. Will they also pull the development cost increase into consideration when they raise the prices? Which I think they still didn't yet, right? They're already kind of quite high for what it is, in my opinion. But you know. Yeah, the detail in Red Dead was insane. That is true. I do agree with that. The detail was crazy. No, they talk about Sony and Microsoft. They talking consoles here. They talking consoles here. Third-party publishers, on the other hand, do not benefit from any such positive feedback loop, but still cannot afford for their games to look dated compared to first-party output, which sets the standard in the eyes of consumers. I think there's a very, very limited amount of games that like try to kind of keep the graphics a little increasing every time, and that actually has the demand for that. It's like Call of Duty or something, like a bunch of shooters, because they have that kind of audience that, you know, like you can see in some Twitch chats, which is who are like, what the fuck is this, man? Some 90s game, this is some trash. Why are you playing this garbage, man? Play Call of Duty, bro. That's where the real graphics are. But I think that's still kind of like a very niche thing. I don't think people really like chase the graphics that much anymore nowadays. I mean, I wouldn't mind. Good graphics is nice, but when the graphics come, you know there's gonna be either like optimization is shit, so it's gonna run like trash, or it's like from the get-go too demanding and everything, so it's gonna run like trash because of that too. Or you know it's gonna be like a lot of graphics but nothing else behind that, and then I'd rather just kind of like have shittier graphics but better game, you know, that runs better and everything, which is not always the case, sadly. These exact dynamics do not apply to the same extent in the mobile games market, where graphics aren't as much of a selling point. But the economics of mobile game development are also troublesome. The potential return on investment is much higher on mobile, which benefits from a lower core development costs and a bigger target market. But the chances of success for any individual game are much lower. When you consider that there are 1 million games on the Apple App Store compared to just over 50,000 on Steam and a few thousand in each console library, the scale of the challenge becomes clear. And the reality is that success is highly concentrated. Last year, over a fifth of all mobile games revenue was captured by just 100 titles, the top 0.0001 of the market. I think the size of the market here is not really that much of a... how do you say? Well, much of a factor that that makes it worse, makes it harder, to be honest. Because I think if you take Steam, it's gonna be the same picture. There's gonna be just a few hundreds, maybe, games or something that make all the money, and everyone else just kinda doesn't do shit. There's just way too many. Like, even on Steam with its 50,000 games, there is already way too many games that go completely unnoticed, right? So I don't think that's exactly making it that much worse. But I mean, it's obviously even harder to get noticed in that. Because like the thing is, in my opinion, you still need quite dang marketing budgets already on Steam nowadays too, or any other platform. It's just a lot of games already have like the name for themselves, or studios or publishers. Like, I think that's the case, actually, in my opinion. On PC, for example, or on consoles, like the publisher makes a lot. Like, publisher already have some sort of established kind of like grounds for marketing and stuff. Mobile doesn't have that. Well, I mean, they probably kind of have something similar, but it doesn't work like this, I guess. So like the publishers are established. Publisher gets your game. Your game most likely will get noticed one way or another, depending on the publisher, right? So that kind of helps, I guess. But if you're like indie or something, then you suffer probably on both platforms and need like some side marketing to even get your game noticed on both platforms, probably. Came to diminishing returns graphics-wise. In a way, I guess. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I think the graphics are really stagnant now. Like, the only graphics increases and improvements right now we see is like adding RTX, adding DLSS, for example, right? That's pretty much it. There are jumps in technologies that are being provided, right? But like no one takes those jumps, though. No one makes those jumps. Like no one even like nowadays, I feel like it's trying to make a tech demo, right? Like Crysis was, for example, right? It was like glorified tech demo basically for the Cry engine. Like no one even tries that. for years already. Like, let's just make something that is like super beautiful, like top tier graphics, like as high as you can go right now, like photorealistic and stuff. But that, I bet, will be a lot of development costs because you would need to optimize that shit like crazy because otherwise it's not gonna work. See you, Evan, I see you. Calista, I think in general kind of looks good though. But that's the thing, like I don't remember seeing a lot of games that are wow. Like the only wow that I experience nowadays is like, wow, that runs on PlayStation, for example, right? And it looks that good and it runs on PlayStation. That's a wow for me. Or like, wow, it's not complete piece of shit and it runs on Switch. That's a wow for me, right? Like Bayonetta, for example, the latest one. That's the wow. Is like, wow, it actually runs without lags. You know, that's what gets you surprised nowadays. Yeah, for me it's more about optimization, to be honest. Yeah, the engine, like the engine videos, yeah, the tech demos, the actual tech demos, yeah, they still not achieve those levels, and that I think is what development cost limits, though, because getting there will actually require work. A good art. I mean, in general, Arkham Knight is not that like bad tech wise either. Like a lot of games from that's the same like period of time. Like I don't know, like 2010, 20, like 2010, 2020, like from those games from that period of time, like maybe like a little bit in the distance from 2010, right? A little bit, not much even. They all kind of like look good still, and all kind of look the same in terms of quality, more or less. Yes, you guys see, yeah. Yeah, but yeah. I mean, if you try to run the stream as on the same time, it's just pain always. And it might be like yesterday, for example, in Pathfinder, right? We got that encounter, that fight, but it just was lag. Until I dropped like the low settings and stuff, it was just lag in that encounter. Like, dude. Arkham Knight on release though, it had some issues. It was a top tier back then, I remember, because that was around time, I think. Or was it before that? One of the Batman games, basically. I think it was Knight, actually. Yeah, with the tank. Is where I got my GTX 770 back in the day. And it had like the smoke physics stuff. They had like all the keep, like they basically had like some special like physics, I think, and some other special tech from Nvidia that was doing like some super dank stuff. It was looking insane with that. It still had some issues with optimization somewhat, but on my GTX 770, which wasn't like, the top tier stuff or anything, it was running good, even with some of those features on. Like back then it was like the top tier game, sort of in terms of graphics. It still kind of is really good though. Such an unpredictable market, publishers have little choice but to hedge their bets and keep churning out new games in the hope of hitting it big, ruthlessly culling those that don't make it. That's kind of how it is, I guess, yeah. So while the cost of making any individual game is modest by comparison to a traditional AAA title, mobile games publishers still face formidable development costs across their portfolios, even before marketing spending. I think on PC is the same though, if you look at it. They just roll something out, mixed reviews, they try to like patch it like once with some big patch. Didn't work, well, shit, abandon, move on to the next one. Aggressive paid marketing is virtually the only available channel for attracting players at a cost that frequently vastly exceeds the core development budget. And what's more, much of this user acquisition spend goes on advertising in other mobile games, further feeding the marketing budgets of competitors and fueling an upward spiral in user acquisition spending. Just you wait, we'll get that on PC soon too. Oof. Oof. The character models don't look like that. I think they're kind of alrighty. I mean, it's also like, the superhero stuff. There's a bunch of like weird dudes with capes and everything. I think part of the stuff was kind of like the stylistical though decision, how they look and everything. That they might be not completely super 100% true to, you know, your average human body. Making games development pay, and given these challenges, many more studios across both AAA and mobile will undoubtedly be bought by first-party publishers and other deep-pocketed giants. See not just this year's big deals from Microsoft and Sony, but also Netflix recent mobile game studio acquisitions. I mean, take THQ. Others will look to new monetization models, randomized reward systems, subscriptions, battle passes, and more have proliferated as the search for new revenue streams intensifies, as has in-game advertising, which Omdia estimates now account for over a third of mobile games revenue and is set to become much more common on console and PC as well. Sadly, we're gonna get that shit now. See, what did I say? The Gigamods that add RTX there, I see. Costs can be targeted directly to. After the Cyberpunk debacle, CD Projekt Red announced it was abandoning its in-house game engine and is moving to Unreal Engine for its next project, which it hopes will reduce costs and make it easier to hire engineers familiar with a standardized platform. Expect to see more of this in future, and not just for game engines. Third-party and open-source tools in areas from testing to analytics to back-end infrastructure are becoming more prevalent. In principle, these should be more efficient than each studio developing its own solutions. In the longer term, AI-assisted development tools hold out the promise of dramatic increases in productivity. They're gonna find another excuse to claim the increased development costs. Just you wait. In fact, almost every trend we see in the games industry today, from the frenzy of studio acquisitions to the constant search for new revenue streams, to the proliferation of startups offering game tech solutions, can be traced back to the cracks that are growing ever clearer in gaming's traditional economic model. Many of the paths the industry is taking may turn out to be dead ends, but the continued demand for games is reassuring. Despite its structural problems, this remains a growth industry, and there are enough potential solutions on the horizon to allow for cautious optimism about the chances of eventually finding a better balance. Still waiting for them to fix performance there, I see. Yeah, not really sure about that one. I mean, partially true. Partially absolutely true. But I think the main key here is still with them wanting to just maintain the hyper profits. That's pretty much it. Because I don't think it increased that much in terms of like expenses and everything. And I'm pretty sure whatever increased, that got compensated by all those new monetization methods that they didn't use like 10 years ago, for example, right? So I'm not sure. I am not sure that it's all clearly attributed to like all those like the tech issues and everything. I think quite a huge factor is just that a lot of especially publishers and everything, they just want to keep the giga profits rolling in. Because gaming is kind of like the same as like esports and stuff, right? It's just this like how you say, like the flavor of the month thingy, well, flavor of the like decade, I guess, where all the investors and everything just goes and put their money in. Especially now also after like the pandemic and stuff, right? When everyone realized that games are like super popular, gaming is now actually, you know, the big stuff. Everyone just ran in to put their money into this stuff. So now you need to justify all those investments, right? Like, why would we ask like hundreds of millions for making some pixel art game, for example, that other indie studios make for, like, you know, for the pocket money, basically, on the free time from work. That's exactly where you start rolling all this stuff about, you know, marketing and everything. A lot of botch launches. Yeah, we did get a bunch. We did get a bunch. 49 is a minimum requirement, yeah. We'll get there. We'll get there. Just you wait. Just you wait. It's already like 3070s and stuff as... well, 2070s, I think, was it? Somewhere already as like the minimal and stuff, so... we be getting there. We be getting there. Don't you worry. 32 gigs of RAM is recommended. It's getting there. It's getting there. Alright, what else do we have? Now what else do we go through real quick? Real quick. Let's try this one. Indie publisher, for example. Yeah, let's go. Let's see the contrast between all this like AAA gigacorp narrative of not enough money and see what indie publishers have to say about it. Let's see, how does an indie publisher spend its money? Whitethorn Games shares details. Alright, let's see. They're still learning ins and outs of signing with a publisher can take some relief this week. Indie publisher Whitethorn Games, whose notable titles include Calico, Lake, We Should Talk, and Witchwood, has rolled out a rather transparent look at its company finances. The resulting information not only gives developers context for how much a publisher's percentage is being spent on relevant services, it also gives them a benchmark against which to measure similarly sized operations. Here are some quick key numbers from the 35-person company. A Whitethorn overhead includes an average employee salary of $51,000 per person, with the CEO, Dr. Matthew White, taking home a salary of $75,000 per year. 120% of the average employee salary. White's only additional compensation comes in the form of bonuses. Well, I mean, that's kind of like 20% more than regular worker. That's not too bad. On the publishing side, Whitethorn Games says the average percent of net revenue due to Whitethorn per title is 28%. The highest percentage of net revenue it has ever requested is 35%. So they ask from devs 28-35%. Okay. The Whitethorn, eh? Let's see what you guys say, huh? The lowest percentage of net revenue it's ever requested is 8%. That's pretty low. Company provides an average of $232,000 per title. The highest it's ever funded is $340,000, and it spends on average about $56,000 in marketing on each game. Oof, bro. I wonder what kind of marketing, to be honest, because I'm trying to remember, like, they're like where does it go? I hope it will be there, because I just don't get, like, I remember only out of all this, I remember Calico, and I remember Lake. I also heard Witchwood somewhere, but I can't really remember what was that. Like Lake, I remember, Calico, I remember, but I think I remember those just because they were on one of the announcement shows. So that's all. Like, I haven't seen it anywhere else, really. So where do exactly that 56k on average go? I wonder. Whitethorn also shared an updated version of its publishing agreement, which is first made available for developers in 2021, and copies of its employment, royalty, and contractor agreements. White told game developer that while he hopes some devs will use this information to sign with Whitethorn, he also wants them to use it to strike better deals with Whitethorn's competitors. Why is Whitethorn going public with this information? He's already worked with a number of indie developers and told us that both from personal experience and dealing with business partners, he found that the pain of a surprise, a high number, to be greater than accepting a high payment up front. So if you have an idea in your head of what something is going to cost you, and then what it actually costs you is different in the wrong way, that's going to be really not pleasing. On the other hand, if you anticipate that something is going to cost quite a lot, and it does, you really take that, even if it's more money, you take that blow much more manageably. Interestingly, there is one cost of doing business that White can't share with prospective partners: how much his company is spending on health insurance and benefits for employees. Because of how American health insurance works, the costs of insurance are directly tied to the kind of healthcare employees need use, and disclosing that information would violate health privacy laws. Here's how he can use the information White and his colleagues are sharing to understand relationship with Whitethorn Games or other publishers. If 35 people at the company make an average of $51K and White makes $75K, you know that it spends $1.8 million on its staff every year. If 10% of the team is working on your game, 3-4 staffers, it is spending about $160,000 on your game every year. If those staffers work on your game for about 2 years, that's about $320K. If a hypothetical revenue split with Whitethorn gave the publisher $384K, you would know that most of that money went to funding work on your game, while about $64K went to profits, taxes, etc. So if you are shopping for publishers and another developer is demanding a revenue split that will leave them with a more or less than that number for 2 years of work, White says you should feel free to ask for details on what you're getting in exchange. Might be a better value than what Whitethorn is offering. It could also be a worse one. White visibly turned up his nose at the idea of publishers borrowing interest or multipliers in contracts. In particular, he dismissed the idea of a publisher adding terms where it's entitled to 20% above the recoup of its costs. On Whitethorn website, the company writes that it does not operate on a so-called recoup multiplier, and recoupable expenses are clearly delineated in the contract. This model per White leaves Whitethorn Games profitable, solvent, and not in debt. The publisher you are signing with is spending numbers differently from this. That might either impact sales of your game, how much revenue you receive, or even determine if the publisher is profitable at all. Hey Kwumi, hello. Whitethorn's approach here is fascinating, not just because it offers developers some tools to enter the negotiating room with them, but also because it offers clear context on the costs of indie game publishing. When the company is based in a smaller American town, those numbers are liable to shift in the years ahead, and White says that his company hopes to keep updating its numbers in the same way it's updated its publicly available contracts. So 1.8 mil per year just to run it. The salaries. That's a lot of fucking money, bro. And then you also need the marketing on top of that. And they take like 30%, I guess, on average, sorta. 28 to 35%. Well, average is 28%, basically. You need to publish some good stuff for that, man. You need to publish some good stuff for that. But I wonder where the marketing goes, though, actually. Because I think most of those games I saw on like announcement shows, not in some sort of like, I don't know, like advertisement channel. Not on some streams, I guess, either. So every game, basically, publisher spends like 300-something thousand on that just in workforce. And then there goes also marketing and everything. And just put things not in the good perspective if you just want to go like super indie, man, and everything. You need to prepare your wallet, sir. Otherwise, not gonna cut it. Unless you have some sort of like super hit brewing there, which we all do, of course. Always, huh? Just doesn't always happen though, sadly. Alright, let's get to the PC and get our game show for the weekly news recap. Let's go. Let's go. Gonna need a bunch. Gonna need a bunch of money then for. I'm surprised those games actually have such huge budgets and stuff. Because like Calico, Lake, they didn't really seem like that crazy pumped, you know, in terms of budgets and everything. Well, I guess maybe development was kind of low budget, and then publishers noticed. Publishers picked them up and rolled in a whole bunch of money. Or like poured in, I guess, a bunch of money. Yeah, so gotta start soon. Gonna get all the millions for the marketing. I'm just gonna get pixel art, turn-based, card-based RPG, and I'm gonna just buy 5 minutes of XQC stream time.